Welcome to the Big Game Hunting Podcast, where we help hunters like you prepare for the big game hunting adventures you've always dreamed of. Now, here's your host, John McAdams.
Hello, John McAdams here. Welcome to episode 307 of the Big Game Hunting Podcast. Brandon Maddox is back on the show with me again today to talk about the latest stuff from Silencer Central. We talk about the new Buck 30 by Banish, their new Speed K suppressor, and some other new developments in the industry that have occurred since he was last on the show in 2023. So for reference, Brandon previously joined me on the show in episodes 182 and 249. In those shows, we talked about some of their other suppressors like the Banish 30, the Banish Backcountry, and the Banish 46 in more detail. We also covered the process of purchasing a suppressor through Silencer Central in more detail in those episodes too. So check out those episodes to learn more details about those subjects if you want more silencer content. Now next, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Big Game Hunting Podcast is about to celebrate its 5-year anniversary. In honor of crossing that milestone, we are giving away a hunt in Africa to a deserving military veteran, and we're also giving away a literal pile of other amazing prizes for other podcast listeners that were generously donated by our partners and sponsors in the industry. Among other companies, Silencer Central has generously donated a Banish 30 suppressor to this celebration. I'm going to give it away to one lucky listener in May of 2024. Listen to episode 306 for more details about the giveaway in general, to include things with the Banish 30. You do need to pay for the tax stamp yourself. You do need to live in a state where they're legal to own. You do need to be of age. You do need to be in compliance with all of the other federal, state, local laws associated with transferring a suppressor like that. Like I said, check out that episode for more details. But still, this is a great suppressor, and aside from the tax stamp, whoever wins it will get it for free. To enter the random draw for the Banish 30 and the other great prizes I'll be giving away, like a Mossberg Patriot rifle, some Nosler trophy grade ammo, a Meadowlark knife from Simbita Custom Knives, a set of Axel X-Core ear protection, some Spartan Precision bipods, an autographed copy of The Perfect Shot by Kevin Robertson, and maybe some other stuff too. Click the link in the show notes, sign up there. You can get additional entries in the random drawing by rating, reviewing, subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast app, and by tagging friends in my past and future Instagram posts about this giveaway. For more information on this 5-year anniversary giveaway, to include how to nominate someone to receive that hunt in Africa we are giving away, check out episode 306 of the Big Game Hunting Podcast. All right. Now let's get started talking to Brandon about what is new with Silencer Central in 2024. All right, well, good morning, Brandon. It is great having you on the show again. I managed to stop by and say hi and meet you for the first time in person at the SCI show last week, and it's great having you back on the show to talk about more silencer news from Silencer Central.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate the honor. Great to meet you live, too. What a busy show, right?
Oh, my goodness, yeah. I was only there one full day, but I felt like I did not stop talking the entire day long. I had a meeting at 7, and my last thing ended at about 10 o'clock that night, and I just did not stop all day.
No, it's crazy. It's draining. I get back to the office, they're like, wow, you seem tired. I'm like, well, I've done 4 or 5 conventions in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So remind me, where are you based out of again?
I'm based out of East Texas.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. And so I went by your guys' booth at SHOT Show. You were busy talking to someone else when I was there, but I was talking to some of your other guys. I know you were there. So besides SHOT and SCI, what other shows have you done recently?
Yeah, good question. So first show is usually Dallas Safari Club. And then I think from there it was Reno, the Sheep Show. And then, of course, SHOT Show. And then I guess SCI. And then I've got Western Expo coming up next week. And then my team is at Great American Outdoor Show in Pennsylvania. That's a big show for us just because of the population density up there. First year we worked at, there was 100,000 people the first day. So that's a huge show. And I know Trump is there speaking, I think, today. So there should be a big crowd there today.
Oh, wow. Jeez. Are you guys going to NRA in May?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's always a big show for us.
Yeah, I'm actually. It's funny. I'm just looked over here on my pile of stuff on my desk, and I see you guys have an advertisement on the entire rear cover of the latest American Hunter magazine. So
Hey,
yeah.
there we go. That's perfect. Yeah, that's where we want to be. Yeah, I think we're one of their top advertisers, and then also we give away, free certificates to all of their local chapters to auction off and give them 100% of the revenue they generate for, giving them a free silencer to auction at their chapter events. And I think they have 3,000 events across the country in a year, so they're busy.
Awesome. All right. Well, good deal. You guys, I'll tell you, your marketing is top notch. I see you everywhere. And I don't know if that's because I just know who you are now and I recognize the Silencer Central, or if you're just doing a lot more than you were a couple years ago, but it seems to be working.
Thanks. Let's hope it's both, right? Let's hope it's all the above, right?
All right. So you got a couple of new products I want to talk about today. Let's start with the Buck 30 by Banish.
Yeah, good question. So, we have a partnership with Buck Commander. Came sort of that evolution from Duck Commander and Willie Robertson and his colleagues there. And, they kind of came to us and said, hey, we feel like it's getting more and more popular for hunting to use a suppressor. And we feel like that sometimes people want a lower price point. It's hard for them to justify if they're only shooting their hunting rifle a few times a year to maybe get a more expensive silencer. So it makes sense from a market perspective to have different price points and different marketing positions. So they came to us and said, hey, we'd like to co-design a silencer kind of specifically for larger game, sort of the deer, specifically whitetail, and they have a mostly southern audience. And we said, sure. So we got together and worked with them, and the Buck 30 is super quiet. I mean, it was almost so quiet. The engineering team was like, wow, this is really, really quiet. Are we sure we want to launch this? I'm like, why would we not launch something as quiet as possible? So it's stainless steel. So, and it's not that long, so it's not going to add that much, additional weight to the end. But no, it's worked out really well. Again, it's for people that want that lower price point, like a $6.99 price point, and then have the ability to, we let customers pay while they wait as well, which is a nice offering to folks that maybe just want to do $100 a month for 6 months while they're waiting for it. And then, again, have it shipped to their front door.
Okay, good deal. So I'm looking at the stats on your website for it right now. 6.9 inches long, 1.54 inches in diameter. So it's a little bit shorter, but a little bit fatter than the Banish 30. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But because it is stainless steel, it's a little bit heavier, not excessively heavy, 13.8 ounces, but it's heavier than the titanium one. But at the same time, it's also quite a bit cheaper too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So good. Sorry, go ahead.
And on our website, yeah, and you're right. On our website, they could do easy pay where they could make 4 payments. But if they call us, we'll let someone do 6, 7, 8 payments, whatever they want to do. Whatever, I always say, whatever keeps it good with you and your wife, because a lot of times wives don't like you to pay for something up front you don't get.
No, I definitely understand. Yeah. That's the thing with suppressors that you don't have a lot of influence on right now. I know we're all working and hoping that'll change one day, but right now you buy it in the United States, you got a pretty long wait ahead of you. And so it is frustrating to fork over a big chunk of change at the front and have to wait a year or more sometimes to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems like a great entry-level suppressor. A guy's like, hey, like you said, I do a lot of deer hunting or something where you don't need something that is real sexy, like a Banish backcountry or something like that. You just want something that's going to, kill that recoil, kill the noise a little bit. And it's also not that expensive. You can use it, basically your whole life, that sort of thing. Great place to get started here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, some guys will use it and they'll come to the booth later and say, hey, I like it, but I'm going to give that one to my son. I'm going to buy myself a titanium one after they kind of get into it. So yeah, think of it as you could always step up later.
And so this one says rated, it seems like a similar rating to your Banish 30, 17 HMR, all the way up to 300 Win Mag.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Yeah. It's welded, so it can handle it.
And so this one, though, it is not user serviceable and it's not modular either, right?
Correct. Yep. So sometimes the question is, how do I clean it? Most people put a piece of tape over that front exit entry and then just in the back end, pour CLR, calcium lime rust remover, let it sit overnight, and then just pour it out and rinse it out with water. That'll get all the carbon out.
That easy, huh?
Oh yeah.
All right.
That CLR stuff is just basically acid. It'll eat that carbon right out.
Now, with a upper rating on the buck 30 of a 300 Win Mag, is it unsafe to use something like a 300 Weatherby or a 300 Rum in it?
The Weatherby's fine. I might be hesitant on the rum. Sometimes with rum, we say, if you're using it once or twice, that's fine. But if that's all you're using on it, you probably don't want to use it. But I would feel comfortable with the Weatherby, but I probably wouldn't recommend the rum. The backcountry is rated for rum. We kind of say the same thing for the Banish 30. You can use a Weatherby, but if you're going to go to a rum, it's probably better to go to the Gold or the backcountry.
And so, what is the problem? What problems would you potentially have if you used one of those real high powered cartridges too much in one of these smaller suppressors or less powerful suppressors, I guess?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say that you just worry about it potentially over time. Maybe the pressure would have a problem in there. I mean, we're always over testing these with full autos where you're getting full pressure in it for 30 round mag. So I don't think it's going to create an issue. It's not like it's going to have a problem. It just could impact long term durability of it. But of course, we have a lifetime warranty forever. So if you had a problem, you can send it back and we would basically rebuild it.
All right. I imagine too that it's probably not going to be hearing safe with a 300 Rum if it's not rated for that either, is it?
Right. Yeah. True. Good point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. But a lot more people use 65 Creedmoor or 30-06, 300 Win Mag and all that stuff than the 300 Rum. And if you
absolutely,
like you always say, if you have a 300 Rum and you do a ton of shooting with it, get a Banish 30 Gold and go that way and just do it right from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this suppressor mainly set up for people using a bolt-action hunting rifle of some sort, like most hunters do. But there's a lot of people that use semi-automatic rifles, like the ever-popular AR-15 and AR-10 style of rifles. Can you talk a little bit about some of the special considerations involved with it, with using a silencer with a gas gun like that? And then we could talk about your new product that is specially designed for that purpose.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, it seems like everyone's a little bit different on, of course, mostly what I do is hunting. So my goal is quiet as possible. If someone is just out target shooting and they know they're going to send a lot of rounds down, they might be worried about blowback because they don't want to get, if you wear the glasses, you're going to get like sort of the raccoon look. And also with that blowback, it could be a concern for people. I mean, I've shot prairie dogs with a lot of rounds and had the blowback, not a huge issue. You can fix it with a charging handle or, you could get a silencer better for the blowback. Sometimes the problem is once you allow for the blowback, then it ends up getting louder. So it's sort of that trade-off. Is your goal to have zero blowback and for it to be okay if it's loud, or is the goal to be really, really quiet and get a little bit of blowback? So it's sort of that balance. The problems I had, like prairie dog hunting with an AR-15 platform, is just sometimes that carbon can blow back, and then it may not function as well. So I just had to sort of grease it up every say 50 rounds just to make sure, spray some rim oil in there just to make sure everything's still moving properly, because that carbon blowing back can dry things out on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm left-handed, and I have a couple different AR-15s, and especially one that I have that's in 223 or 5.56. I put my Banish 223 on it. I got a ton of blowback coming at me where it's just uncomfortable to shoot. And so putting a adjustable gas block on it helped. Putting a new charging handle on it helped. But it's still there, and it seems like it's still just a little bit overgassed with that 223 on it. And I think that it seems like the 223 is just about perfect for, say, a bolt action 223 or 5.56 rifle. But at least with mine, especially being left-handed, I have problems with it.
Yeah, I could see that. No, totally. Yeah. And what rifle are you using? What AR?
It's a Diamondback DB15
cool.
and 223 Wild.
Oh,
and, it functions fine and it shoots accurately and all that stuff. But even with the darn glasses on, it's like I said,
it can be too much.
It's just too much, man. Yeah. That's the problem with being left-handed sometimes.
No, I get it.
Well, so tell us about your new Speed K then.
Yeah, Speed K is sort of an interesting, sort of development there. it's somewhat analogous to the situation I explained with Buck Commander and the Buck 30. We're in South Dakota, and the folks at Federal Ammunition are over in Anoka, Minnesota, which is, it's a little bit of a jaunt, probably 4 hours, but they said, hey, we see the silencer market really increasing in the law enforcement area. And while we're selling ammunition to law enforcement, we would like an opportunity to sell silencers to these law enforcement folks as well. And so probably about 2.5 years ago, we sat down with them and started talking, what would that look like? And to be honest, at first I was a little bit like, okay, Silencer Central and myself, our expertise is really compliance, which, the Form 4 sort of individual purchase. And then also I would say our, sort of heritage and expertise has been hunting. So when I heard, government sales and, law enforcement application, I was like, well, it's probably not our wheelhouse. Is that something we want to get into? But after talking to Federal, and Federal has really high market shares in law enforcement agencies because they've been calling on them for so long. And they convinced me that the relationships they have are so long that they're going to probably have more rapport and ability to talk to some of these law enforcement agencies about a silencer. So what they did is they actually, we sort of collaborated together where they brought in different agencies for us to meet with that currently use suppressors and say, what do you like about the suppressor you use currently and what do you not like? And then also they took us to people that are, sort of silencer naive, have not used suppressors, and say, hey, if you could get suppressors, what would that look like? And so the good thing about that is we started with a clean slate. And what we found is that a lot of agencies were taking a 16-inch barrel and cutting it down to a 10.5-inch barrel, and then they're having to make it, an SBR, a short barrel rifle, and they're having to register it as an NFA item. It just created sort of a hassle for them to have to go through that process of registering. Of course, they don't have to pay the $200 tax being a government agency, but just, losing the weapon for a while you get it cut, crowned, and then have to, basically kind of rebuild it. Their request was, could we find a shorter suppressor that we could use on our 16-inch uppers and not have to worry about adding that much weight to the end of the barrel? So we kind of took that insight, and also, they wanted to, have something that limited the blowback that was comparable to everything else on the market for blowback. They also wanted something that didn't add that much weight. And we sort of took that information and we 3D printed a suppressor, and it's called the Banish Speed K. And the speed is just, is what we kept hearing from the operators is, boy, I love this small size because I can sort of speed through a room when I'm trying to clear it. I don't have to worry about that silencer adding so much length to the end of the rifle that it's going to slow me down. But the Speed K is kind of cool. The internal code name was a 2x4. So it's basically, 2-inch diameter, 4 inches long.
Okay.
And we, it's funny. I sent it to our patent attorney that does firearms patents. And, my request was, hey, I just want to make sure that we're not in anybody else's sandbox. I want to make sure we don't have any technology in this that, maybe we don't realize someone else had already patented. And they gave us a, clean sort of, hey, no, everything looks great. But what they did come back with is there was 4 different options inside the suppressor that they were patentable. So we're working on that. So that's nice. But basically created a design where it's quiet and it also limits the blowback comparable to everything else is on the market. And it's also shorter and it's really quiet. And feedback we've gotten from agencies so far is that it's significantly quieter indoors when they compare it to really everything else on the market that's been used for law enforcement and kind of made for that design. So we're excited about it. We've had a couple agencies already start buying them. And, Federal warned us that it's typically a 2 to 3 year buying process with law enforcement agencies. It's sort of, they put together a request for the money, then it has to be, appropriated, and then they have to, test several different models, and then they have to get pricing. So it can take a while. So far it's gone over really well. We work Industry Day at SHOT Show every year. And I would say it's the first time I can remember being at Industry Day where people were coming up specifically asking, hey, I want to shoot this. And then, of course, everyone had really positive feedback. I was thinking about it. I don't think I've ever been at SHOT Show where someone says, oh, that's a horrible product, I would never use that. Like bad feedback, but they just don't say anything maybe if they aren't pleased or it doesn't wow them. But everyone seemed very wowed by it, which made us feel good. Just, kind of our first entry into the law enforcement market. And our engineers felt like it was smart for us to collaborate with the end users to create something they were looking for.
Okay, very interesting. I remember when you guys sent out the email, I don't know, maybe last month or something like that, and I got it, and that's the first I heard of it. It's like, wow, man, this seems very interesting too, especially considering just the things the process I've been going through with my AR-15, and it was like, you were speaking.
Yeah.
I know you designed it for the law enforcement guys, but you're selling it to the regular civilian market now too, through normal channels and all that stuff, and it seemed like it just spoke straight to me.
Yeah, no, that's good feedback. It's interesting. Our goal was to wait till SHOT Show, but there's a couple of contests that some of the publications do where you can be Silencer of the Year if you launched it during that calendar year. So our goal was to sort of speed it up a little bit and launch it last year inside the calendar year so that we'd be eligible for an award the NRA gives out. So they basically picked it as Silencer of the Year based on their testing on it, and that's why, to be able to launch it in December, was able to make us a candidate for that. And after they tested it, they thought, hey, this has a chance. You ought to consider, moving up your timeline a little bit, which I think was, obviously smart on our part to get recognized for that. But, one thing I should tell you a little bit of like inside baseball. So, we launched it in 100% Inconel. And of course that takes full auto and that works great. The next version that we're going to launch in a couple months is going to be 100% titanium, and it's super light. It's essentially the same design. It's just, we wanted to get it out there for the law enforcement agencies that were asking for it in Inconel. And then the next version will be all titanium, and it is so light that I think it's going to sell really well in the consumer market as well.
Now, I first time I ever heard of Inconel was you talked about, I think it was your blast baffle in the Banish 46 you said was made out of Inconel.
Yes. Good memory.
What the heck is Inconel?
Yeah, good question. And I know I went to pharmacy school and I should know all my chemical structures, right? My understanding is like a nickel base. I just know it's really expensive to machine because it's really hard. You see it used in a lot of military applications, but I think, years ago we used to do like heat treated stainless steel that would harden the first blast baffle, but then Inconel is even stronger. The theory is that first baffle gets the most brunt of the unburnt powder and the explosion. So you want your strongest material there. So the Inconel is sort of the industry standard for kind of saying the toughest thing you can make. And it's light, but it's not as light as titanium. And when we tested this one with 30,000 rounds, which sounds like a lot, but obviously since we created it in, sort of in cooperation with Federal, we were able to get pretty good pricing on the ammo. And some of the competitors in the marketplace, I think, had run 20,000 through theirs. So we thought, hey, we should run 30,000 through ours and all the competitors in the market and see how they all stood up to being able to handle that type of, sort of brunt force on the actual silencer. And, it worked out really well.
And so it seems like Inconel versus titanium, when dealing with extreme heat and things like that you would have with a muzzle blast inside a silencer, the Inconel is going to be tougher and more durable. And so that is something that you would want in a silencer like this, where you're going to be dealing with full auto fire, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. And you could argue that most law enforcement probably don't ever go through that. But in other words, I would say that the Inconel would be good for if it's, a rifle that you're going to do training with, and maybe you are using a lot. Whereas the titanium is probably going to be a better option if you're, not going to run it on full auto and you're not going to, use it as much. I mean, not that the titanium won't handle it, because we're running the same test on it. It's just, you wouldn't want to run a belt fed through it or something like that.
Okay, fair enough. Now, it seems like, just as someone on the outside looking in here, talking with other people and whatnot about stuff, say on the AR platform in general, when they talk about, hey, a flow-through suppressor is good for this and that, they say it reduces the blowback, but the trade-off is that compared to a silencer that is less flow-through, however you want to describe that, it's going to be a little bit louder. Is that generally true? Right. And how did you square that circle in this case with the Speed K?
Yeah, that's been my experience too. So if you look, even on the website at the Speed K, the Banish Speed K, you'll see that it's got, these little holes in the front, and that helps let the air out, and that kind of goes all the way through. So it also creates ports where you can clean it. You can run cleaner through those. So that's where we've created the technology to help with the flow through. But then just the design of the silencer with giving it enough space in a blast chamber. And I don't think the pictures online show it, but if you look at it, if you go to any of the shows we're at or look at it at our booth, you'll see it's got these fins on the inside that really serve as a baffle and make it quieter, because we tried it with it and without it. And these little fins inside do a really good job baffling the sound and sort of slowing the gas down so that it takes longer to get through the actual suppressor. But our engineers, I don't know how they come up with some of this stuff. I mean, it's exciting for me because I feel like this was our first entry into law enforcement and first entry into sort of a request for flow through, but also quiet. And just based on feedback from Federal, Federal is very firm with us. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. So they kind of, I'm friends with Jason Vandenbrink, their CEO, and he kind of pounded the table and said, if it's not the best silencer out there, we're not selling it. So you need to figure it out. So that's why it took us 2.5 years to make sure it was perfect.
Very interesting. I had no idea you guys worked on it that long.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of it was probably data gathering for the first 6 to 8 months of just trying to get in front of these agencies and say, hey, we got a clean slate. Instead of bringing them a product and saying, hey, here's what we want to sell you. It's like, hey, if we could create a product based on what you're looking for, what would that look like? And then sort of creating it based on that.
Now, I know you specifically designed this for law enforcement. It looks like on the surface, there's pretty good military utility for this too.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely, that's something we haven't gotten into as much, but I do think there's an opportunity there because we see it has really good flash suppression, which maybe some of the competitors we tested did not. So this design does seem to have some benefits for that as well, which would be something the military would be looking for. So, yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of opportunities out there. And, I had said earlier that like what I felt like our expertise to bring to the table with Federal was the compliance side. And what I realized is, in my mind, a Form 5 is super simple and that's not a big compliance thing. But when you're working with a big organization like Federal, they've just struggled to do anything with silencers in the past because they didn't really have a team of experts where they could lean in and ask compliance questions around silencers and who can possess them and, who can use them and how do you transfer them. And we've kind of been able to bring that source to them and help them, which has just made it easier for their salespeople. It's made their legal counsel more comfortable with our understanding of the whole NFA laws. So it's put them in a good position to kind of all have a silencers, all be able to go and test with the agencies. And I think it's also helped Federal get in the door where if the agency is not currently using Federal products, it was probably hard to get in the door and say, hey, I want to call on you guys. But now to say, hey, I got something new, I want to show you this. It's kind of giving them an opportunity to, maybe call on some agencies they haven't talked to in a while.
And with the very short, fat dimensions of this suppressor, so you say at just 4 inches long, you can take it, put it on a AR that is say 16.1 inch barrel and have it come in just under 20 inches then too, right? You're probably like 19 3/4 inches or something like that.
Yeah, because I don't know the exact math on how far it screws in, but it's probably at least half an inch, if not 3/4 of an inch screwing into there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is this the fattest suppressor you guys manufacture? It looks like it's even bigger than
for sure.
the backcountry and the 46.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. No, totally. And it just, a lot of the shows we work, we talked earlier, most of them are hunting shows, but, we sold quite a few there. Guys walk up and say, wow, because we have it on a Daniel Defense at our booth, and it looks pretty sexy there with the rail and how it fits up with it. And, it's a kind of a cool sort of tactical design. So, no, it's been fun for us. I mean, I think we've working in this market in the Dakotas and kind of our roots growing up here, everyone pretty much coyote hunts, prairie dog hunts. It's more of a varmint or target market for target shooting. But to have something that looks a little bit more tactical and people can use for their day job, law enforcement, but then also to kind of take home and use in a similar fashion has been exciting.
And so for different use cases, say you get some guy that, let's say he hunts a lot of coyotes and he uses an AR platform of some sort to do that. Would you point him specifically to the Speed K if you wanted to suppress his AR?
Oh yeah, heck yeah. Just because it's gonna, not have the kind of situation you're having with the blowback. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and plus it's quiet. It's quieter than any of the others out there that say they have blowback technology. So, and I think that's always the most important thing to the hunter is how quiet is it, but then also can I still function with it? Yeah, because I can relate to, like you said, some of the blowback stuff. I I can remember one day I was shooting prairie dogs on the Pine Ridge Reservation here in South Dakota, and that's literally in the middle of nowhere. And my AR platform locked up on me, and I could barely get it apart, continue to shoot. You hate to, the closest store is probably 3 hours. So,
oh, geez.
yeah, you want to make sure you want to make sure your equipment's working while you're out there. So, and that, of course, prairie dog's a little different. That's kind of high volume, but you can have some high volume with coyotes as well.
Now, say for someone else that does things a little bit differently, they have a bolt action 22-250 or something like that. The Speed K would work for them, but would the 223 be a better choice in that case?
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely use the Banish 223 for a 22-250 because, I used to use that AR platform, but then I switched to a 22-250 and a bolt action. And I used a 223 silencer. I found that if I knew I had a magazine with 30 in there, I was probably taking a lot of shots. Whereas if you have a 22-250, I would spend a lot more time focusing in and just had a higher percentage of kill rate.
And with a bolt gun where you're not dealing with the blowback and in that nature, is the 223 actually going to be a quieter overall suppressor than the Speed K?
Oh, for sure. 100%. Yep.
Yeah. Now, we talked about this a little bit before we started the recording today. 2 new 22 caliber cartridges came out this year. The 22 ARC, you can get it in a bolt gun, or it's very popular in ARs, and the 22 Creedmoor. What is your recommendation of silencers for use with those two cartridges? And, is it safe to use? Is it hearing safe? All that stuff.
Yeah, totally. So you could use the Banish 223 for sure for both of those. But be honest, a lot of people that come up to our booth at shows, they'll tell you, hey, I also have a 6.5, also have a 308, also have a 300 Win Mag. Usually we would say just go ahead and get a titanium 30 cal silencer. So you could use like a Banish 30 or a Banish Backcountry or Banish Gold. So I just find most people, if it's their first silencer, they like the idea of a multi-caliber where they can use one on all of them. But let's say they already have a 30 cal silencer and they're looking at, hey, what should I put on these new rounds? I would say a 223 Banish. Just, can be able to take it apart and clean it, which is nice. Super lightweight titanium. It's only 7 inches long.
Mm-hmm. Now, when I was actually at the show at SHOT Show, I was talking to one of your sales guys, and he was saying that I was talking to him about my blowback issues and whatnot. And he's like, one alternative, or really two alternatives to the Speed K that would, especially if you already have one of them, you don't necessarily need to go through the process of buying another one, is the Banish 30 Gold. He says actually works really well on an AR and minimizes blowback. And same thing with the Banish 46.
Yes. It's got a little bit more chamber space in there. So it helps with, cycling. So yeah. And I think I saw you talking to Drew there. Boy, he knows that stuff better than I do. He's out shooting every day.
Yeah, it's that is definitely something I'm going to take a hard look at, especially since I already have a Banish 46. I'm gonna put it down in a shorter configuration and see how it works for me on that stuff, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. You'll have to give me a follow up. We're redesigning that 46. Maybe we might take the modularity out of it because most people are shooting it in the short configuration anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is the thing, right? I did not notice a gigantic difference in performance going from the short to the long configuration.
Yeah, that's the feedback we're getting. Yeah, so why not just make it shorter?
Yeah, and it's such a big and heavy suppressor anyway that
titanium makes it nice. But you're right, to be able to handle, because you can shoot a 375 through that, so it's definitely a horse.
Yeah, I've shot a 4.58 Win Mag through mine, and it's
wow.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it did well with it. I don't know if it was technically hearing safe when I did it, but it was definitely quieter and it recoiled a whole lot less.
So I'll tell you, we do a fair amount of rider events where riders industry riders will come and we let them fire whatever they want. The most popular is that Banish 46 through a 375. People love that because of the recoil reduction and just, essentially being hearing safe.
Yeah, my rifle was borderline unshootable without a suppressor, and it's still a lot with it on there, but it makes a giant difference.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's amazing. People, they forget about the recoil component as well, and to be able to handle that. I remember Adam Weatherby had a Weatherby 3378, and he didn't have a suppressor on. It was just rocking the whole, event, the rider event. We put the Banish 30 Gold on there, and it tamed it down to hearing safe. It got like a standing ovation, round of applause. It's just so much different.
Oh man, I'll bet. Yeah, especially shooting a 3378 Weatherby, especially if you had a muzzle brake on it, and especially if there was overhead cover. God, that's just terrible for everyone else.
Horrible. I was close enough to him that I could feel like someone's punching me in the chest every time. And some people love shooting that thing just because it's so loud, and you kind of feel like you're getting your man card back. But the rest of us that are around it, it's like, oh, I feel like you're getting a punch.
Okay, good deal. Well, we've talked about a lot with, we really stayed on the 22 caliber end of things today. We talked a little bit about the Buck 30 and whatnot. Anything else we need to talk about with new stuff from Silencer Central before we wrap up today, Brandon?
I can't think of anything. I mean, one thing I try to do a plug on is that, and I mentioned it earlier, but we give away free silencers at any local charitable event. So if you have, your listeners have a charity that they're a part of and they would like for us to get involved, we'd be happy to donate free silencers for them to auction off. And then 100% of the proceeds go to that organization. It kind of helps us give back to conservation and also helps us get our name out there. I first started this almost 20 years ago. Most people thought either silencers were illegal or they were not legal to hunt with. So anytime we can get out in front of large groups and talk about hunting with silencers, I feel like everybody wins. So if any of your audience says, hey, we do local events and we would like to include Silencer Central, just give us a call. We'd be, honored to be able to help out those local charities.
Now, is that something they just call the regular Silencer Central phone line?
Yeah.
And like whoever answers the phone will put them through?
Yeah, we got two guys here. That's all they do. I told them I pay them too much to give away free stuff, but it's very effective at getting our name out there. And some of these agencies, I think it's Ducks Unlimited. Their goal is to raise over $1 million just with this year, and I know that National Wild Turkey and NRA probably will as well. So it's a big sort of win-win where it creates a big fundraiser for these charitable events, and then it creates a lot of name recognition for us and our ability to give back to conservation.
Well, excellent. That is all a good deal. I really like what you guys are doing. I ordered my first silencer from Silencer Central in 2021, and now I have 5 of your products. And so that.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. That's good.
I know there's a lot of people that are in that same boat too, man. Once you get that first one, you can't stop.
Yeah, that's what I always say. If you look at me, I always say you can't just have one potato chip. It's kind of the same way with silencers, right? Once you get started.
All right. Well, good deal, Brandon. It was great talking to you today. Thanks a lot for joining us on the show.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Honor.
Now, there have actually been some surprisingly good developments that have occurred in the silencer world since Brandon and I recorded this episode. Specifically, wait times for ATF approval have dramatically improved. In fact, I have heard multiple first-hand accounts of 3 to 4 month or even shorter approvals lately. Long story short, the ATF has made some changes to how they do things in their approval process that have really shortened wait times. It's nice to be able to give you some good news on subjects like this from time to time. Now, nothing is guaranteed, of course, when it comes to wait times and the ATF, but this is about as good as things have gotten in terms of short wait times since I first started paying to this stuff years ago. That's a heck of a lot faster than the 8, 9, 10 months I waited for my most recent batch of suppressors, and a lot better than what I waited for my Banish 30, 15 and a half months back in 2021 and into 2022. Now, if you didn't already guess, this episode is brought to you by Silencer Central. If you want to start this suppressor journey yourself and come along with me, go to thebiggamehuntingblog.com/silencer, and you can get the ball rolling on your very own suppressor with Silencer Central. They'll help you with all the paperwork, set you up with a free NFA gun trust, and then ship your new suppressor directly to your door once they receive ATF approval. Now, the Banish 30 is a great place to start for most people, though there are other suppressors that might make more sense for other people in situations like the Banish Backcountry, the Banish 338, or the Banish 46. Right now, I have a Banish 30, a Backcountry, a Banish 46, a Banish 223, and a 22K rimfire suppressor for myself. Now, I have written detailed reviews of the Backcountry, the 30, and the 46 on the blog. Links are in the show notes. If you want to check them out, you can learn more about what I think regarding each one. None are perfect. They each have their own specific pros and cons, but they're all good, solid suppressors, ideally suited for different tasks, though. For me personally, I like the Banish Backcountry best for the sort of hunting I do, but your needs may be different, and really, like I said earlier, that Banish 30 is a great place to start. So like I said, check out the biggamehuntingblog.com/silencer, and that'll take you straight to the Silencer Central website. If you want to call and talk to a sales rep with Silencer Central, make sure you tell them John McAdam sent you. They have me listed as an influencer in their system. And also, one last thing as we wrap up, click the other link in the show notes to enter the Big Game Hunting Podcast anniversary giveaway for a chance at winning a Banish 30 or one of the other great prizes I'm giving away for yourself. Remember, you can make your dream hunt turn into a reality, and we can help. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next time on the Big Game Hunting Podcast.
This show may be over, but we have plenty more for you on our website. For more information on today's topic, as well as lots of other useful hunting resources, head over to the biggamehuntingblog.com. We look forward to having you back for the next episode. But until then, happy hunting.
Brace yourself for something fuel-nominal. Unleaded 88 is the clear fuel choice. It's cheaper, cleaner, and greener. And it's grown by Iowa corn farmers. Now that's totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88.